I just have to say, Magia Record knows how to do cliffhangers. After the credits of Magia Record can sometimes drop the biggest bombshells, and I love that moment where we just see our girl trying to contact mommy, and you just know episode 4 can't come soon enough, and this was a visually outstanding episode. Now don't get me wrong, I know that's kind of just claiming the obvious. Magia Record has been visually outstanding since episode 1 of season 1, but season 2 has definitely been in the oven for the perfect amount of time. It's cooked to perfection. But episodes like these that are like horrifyingly directed as if you're going into someone's nightmare that's being presented as paradise, they really went all out with filtering and the aesthetic. I mean, some of the backgrounds and filterings applied on characters like Yachio looked like they were pulled from a Van Gogh painting, to then you have one of my favorite transitions, maybe my favorite transition I have seen from Studio Shaft. There's a couple of them throughout the episode, but the first one that we see where the thread's being ripped away as we're peeling into different scenes, that was so well animated and directed, and the sound effects are beautiful. It just ties it perfectly together. But I have to say, the idea of how we would fight Tamaki, I mean, Iroha, it's interesting, right? Because would it just be a typical Madoka fight, or would it be something more like what we saw here? I'm glad they went with the latter. I mean, I love it when video games do it. I can think of the Batman series. I'm currently playing through Spider-Man on the PS5, and there's a boss in the first Spider-Man game where basically you get kind of like trapped in your own mind and you have to fight your way out. I love that type of stuff, so having Iroha basically having her paradise where her sister's back, it's a teddy bear, it's creepy as shit. But, you know, her doppel and things like that are basically making her a paradise. If one person isn't there, meaning the real one's not there, so when Yacho goes to explore, a new one's made to fill the place. And because the sister's been gone for so long, it feels like even she doesn't remember what she looks like in a weird way. And it's interesting because this is one of those episodes that was meant to make you a nerd. And there's a few different points that I was like, oh, maybe I was just getting ahead of myself. Maybe some of these scenes, while they were creepy, they weren't meant to make me truly unnerved. And then they'd have Iroha pop up like she's like Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street, or she's Jason from Friday the 13th, and she's ready to slice and dice. If you insult her sister, like why is she a teddy bear, she'll get so venomous as if she's ready to pounce on you. And the directing for this episode might be my favorite that we've seen out of the 3, and all 3 of these episodes for season 2 are outstanding in their own right. Whether it's for the narrative, blending old school Magia to kind of like old school Madoka into this new package that is kind of hitting both sides of the fan base in the best possible sense, to just how interesting this was, because clearly Iroha was going to come back in some way. I guess in the game she doesn't even disappear, but the anime went that route, and I guess from what we've seen so far in the anime, a lot has actually been anime original for this, which I think is a blessing, because not only do you have some of the original people who worked on the first Madoka anime back and writing for this one, you also have something that I think is the perfect representation. Because I've heard different things about the game in terms of a source. Some people really like the story, some people say it falls off, but anytime you're adapting a mobile game into an anime, you're pretty much destined for failure unless you pretty much side games it and you really create something original with using the essence of the original story. And I'm glad to see that they're fleshing it out. I've seen nothing but praise so far. Maybe this episode's a different story, but given how episodes 1 and 2 have had plenty of people who know the source game and were saying, I really love the new changes, the new elements they're making, it makes it feel fleshed out and not as rushed. So that's a great sign to me, because I didn't think it was original. I thought it was just pulling from the game, because I'm pretty sure the first season mostly did that. And maybe that's why some people didn't like it as much. Maybe there wasn't as much fleshing out in ways that they wanted to see, or maybe the action wasn't like it was in the original. Either way, you can tell the difference in enthusiasm for this season in comparison to the first. And I'm obviously one of the rare supporters saying that the first was amazing. But yeah, this is a different ballpark. I love the horrifying aesthetic. I love just seeing how they're really pushing the boundaries of what a Shaft production can look like in 2021, even when the world's in the middle of imploding, and to see just how carefully directed every single scene was, while giving you those familiar faces, while giving you that mystery of what's going on with the sister. And now that seemingly Iroha has been brought back and she kept her promise, she didn't die, where do we go from here? After the credits gives you some indication, but that's only a small factor of what will be next week's episode. And seriously, I mean, in some ways, I think this is moving like 3 times faster than Magia Records Season 1, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Season 1 had the issue for people of there was a lot of sitting around, there was a lot of talking, but I think that was desperately needed to flesh out a cast who could have easily just been there to get killed, and that's all that could have happened. But the fact that we got those connections, I think it makes stuff like this all the more impactful. When Iroha gets ripped away and she's dealing with this depression of her sister, we had a pretty big build-up in Season 1 to understand where that's coming from. The Magia is getting spotlight now with something that I welcome, because obviously it's very different than what we experienced in the first part. This is what I'm loving about this, is it truly feels like an artistic vision that is set to be a masterpiece. Would I call part 1 of Magia Record a masterpiece? No, I think it's a damn great season though. But what I've seen so far, 3 out of 8 episodes for season 2 so far, really, I mean, this shit's starting to get up there for what I consider to be the best of Madoka's content, and that is the original first season. So it'll be interesting, right? Because they definitely brought back those familiar faces, which helps, I think, flesh it out even more. You have your fan favorites, so you're not as feeling like, okay, even if certain characters' personalities aren't for you, you have your fan favorites here, or at least you know they're a part of the cast in some way. And with the new production style and just the insane doppel mechanic and just everything like that, like, this really is feeling like a recipe for success. Now, I could just be misremembering because it's been over a year since I watched Magia Record Season 1. But for the most part, the transitions and I think a lot of the filtering pretty much matched what we saw from the original Madoka anime, just obviously way more refined because the original Madoka TV series, while it looked good, I mean, there was a lot of inconsistencies that before the Blu-rays, I mean, you can go back and look at Blu-ray comparisons, they're night and day. Magia Record, however, looked good from a TV standpoint, and I really felt the need to rewatch it for the Blu-ray because it already looked so good. But I have to say, I feel like Season 2 is upping the game for how they're stylistically directing it. Like, it still feels like Magia Record Season 1, but I can't be the only one saying that. It honestly feels, like, vastly improved, and as if they're taking more risks. Like, seriously, like, that thread transition, it's simple on paper, but it really adds an extra element of really, like, ripping through the consciousness and going through the mind and psyche. Like, there's so many cool little bells and whistles about this production, and I think, yeah, episode 1 definitely got way more buzz than the first part of Magia Record because of how good the animation and fight was. But I really think it's the way they're directing the character and personalities that is really going to sell people on Season 2 more so than Season 1. Like, I know I review this on a Monday and it comes out on a Saturday, but it's nothing to do with, like, an excitement or anything. It's just mainly because, honestly, the fact that I'm reviewing it on a Monday, despite when I started doing these reviews thinking no one would watch it kind of shows how excited I am for it. It's just like I'm trying to space things out a bit better so I don't reach the point of being burnt out, right? But I will say, Saturday nights, I'm always eager to watch that Magia Record episode, but for my own sanity, I'm like, no, I need to space things out and do it on a Monday. And so far, the fan base has been very, very kind to me for releasing it 2 days after, and I really do appreciate that. I'm going to continue to say that until the show's over, because I do appreciate the continued support, because many people are like, oh, if you don't release it the same day, no one gives a shit, but I appreciate the real ones. You guys are the best. Let me know what you're feeling, though, in this week's episode down below. I think this is the best of Season 2 so far. I love the horrifying aesthetic, trapped in the mind, breaking free, not wasting time, but giving enough time, like an entire episode, to break it. You could tell how much of a struggle it was, so that's some great stuff for me, but let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.